Hello, friends, and welcome back to Malicious Compliance Stories. Today's story is a classic tale of parking justice, featuring a stubborn Karen who learned the hard way about blocking driveways. But before we dive in, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell for more entertaining stories. Don't block people's driveways. So one day I was ready to leave to a family brunch, and I get outside to see a car blocking our driveway. Because we have steps that lead to the sidewalk, there wasn't a way to maneuver around them, so I called parking authority and they got here really quick, saw how they were parked, ticketed them, and towed them. I missed brunch and was pissed. About an hour and a half later, there's a knock at my door. There's a Karen and her husband at the door. She asks if I had her car towed, and I said yes. The husband apologized and stated that he told her this was illegal parking, but she parked anyway. She asked why I would do that and told me I didn't have to be such a jerk. I said that she made me miss a family event and that she needed to understand that actions have ramifications. Her husband chuckled and she started to weep again. I asked if there was anything else. She nodded no, and I closed the door. Don't block people's driveways. And our second story. Retiring lawyer spills his beans. This all from memory bases on the ramblings of a drunk retiring lawyer about 30 years ago. So I started work in the 90s on the shop floor of a pipe-making factory, but made a few friends in the office. So one year at our end-of-year breakup party, I overheard a story from the corporate lawyer who was retiring on the same day. Someone asked what his most memorable case was. This guy was gray. Gray hair, gray skin, gray clothing, gray manners. Nothing distinctive about him at all. In fact, at the annual company party known for drinking, this guy was always sober, but not that night. He was a contracts lawyer, never tried a case, just proved contracts all day, as far as I know. He's probably dead by now with most people in this story, but no company names as those entities live forever. So we made pipe. Plastic pipe, water supply, sewer, electrical, and telecommunications duct. We were the second biggest in the market and would swap contracts with the biggest manufacturer as we both bid on supplying the big players in the markets. In our jurisdiction, we had a government communication department which got sold off and became Big Telco along with deregulation of the sector. We supplied green ducting for telecommunications to Big Telco, lost the contract to the competition, gained it back, etc. Life went on. One day, a new international company entered our market and started undercutting Big Telco. Let's call them OK Telco. So as things go, we lost the Big Telco contract, but picked up the OK Telco contract, which was bigger as they had to establish an entire network from scratch. Yay us! This is where Mr. Gray enters the story. He was a contracts lawyer, not a criminal law or other specialty, but contract. He gets a please attend meeting invite from Big Telco, along with a select few from our company, probably about the upcoming renegotiating of contracts. When Mr. Gray walks into the room with his boss, they're sitting across the boardroom table are Mr. Big Crap and several $5 a word flesh-eating attack lawyers. They ambush them with an injunction about using this green, you know, the standard telecommunications green, for OK Telco pipes and are ready to take them for everything, including the pension fund for daring to supply the competition. They had a strict contract on the table which had to be signed then and there, or another $5 a word flesh-eating attack lawyer standing by at the courthouse would have a judge sign an injunction against making any pipe at all until the case was settled. Probably an empty threat, but even a 2-week break in production could kill our company while lawyers cleared it with a judge to let us make other types of pipe. Mr. Gray looked over the contract and told the boss to sign as they could tie us up in knots due to their huge size and budget, while the contract just made it clear that this green was the exclusive property of Big Telco and could only make it for Big Telco. We folded like a shirt and signed. Life went on with us making OK Telco that green pipe. A few months later, Mr. Gray went to a 20-year reunion from his law school. Guess who was there? Mr. Big Crap, telling everyone about how great a lawyer he is and how he can push around anyone due to how great he is, and definitely not due to his huge budget and an army of $5 a word flesh-eating attack lawyers. Mr. Gray is pissed. Mr. Gray bides his time and pores over the contract. A few years later, Big Telco has to have a name change due to how much bad press they have from shifty service and practices, and as a way to avoid debts under the old name. They change everything, storefronts, letterheads, everything. They're now New Old Telco. Contracts come and go. The other big pipe company gets a contract from New Old Telco to make pipe. Mr. Gray strikes. Other pipe company and New Old Telco get served with cease and desist orders about making and using green pipe. Big Crap lawyers puzzled and angry that this is happening and calls Mr. Gray. Mr. Gray arranges a meeting and then hangs up on Mr. Big Crap mid-threat. Big Crap turns up with his $5 a word flesh-eating attack lawyers just to see Mr. Gray in the boardroom. No ambush, no backup, just him. Mr. Gray lets him vent his spleen about how they're going to gut the company and Mr. Gray will never work in law again. Then Mr. Gray takes out a packet of papers and a highlighter, makes a few strokes, and pushes it to the closest $5 a word flesh-eating attack lawyer. They read what he had highlighted and screwed up their face. This was repeated as the papers were passed to the Big Crap lawyer. I'm no lawyer, and this was about 30 years ago, so I can only paraphrase what Mr. Gray said he had highlighted. Only our pipe company, in conjunction with Big Telco, can make and or use this green pipe, exclusively with no substitutes, parent or child companies, successors, or blah, blah, blah. Since there were only 2 companies listed on the contract, they were the only 2 sets of people who could decide the fate of this green pipe. Big Crap said they could claim ownership of the pipe color since they were in effect just a rebranded Big Telco. Mr. Gray pointed out that that admission was cause all of their avoided debts to come home with interest, along with an admission of guilt in trying to pervert the course of justice. Big Crap then claimed they inherited the ownership. Mr. Gray cut him off with the no child company clause. Big Crap went on for a while, being blocked by Mr. Gray at every turn, and at the end, even his $5 a word flesh-eating attack lawyers were jumping in to shut him down because he was exposing them to risks greater than any of them were willing to be a part of, especially since they had made the contract as airtight as they could to screw us. As they were leaving, Mr. Gray said 2 things. This was an unfair fight, all of you versus me. Next time, bring more and smarter lawyers. And since we now effectively control this green, here's a document making the color public domain. We don't want to screw the other pipe company. It's not their fault they have idiots for customers. Hoisted on their own petard, and instead of making a huge financial deal from it, Gray simply shows them how things should have been all along. And our last story. From $800,000 lawsuit to owning the business. This happened in 2018. I was the 3rd shift manager as well as safety advisor for a large towing, machine shop, and diesel mechanic shop. My job was to run any of the tow trucks from my typical take-home F550 wrecker to the 70-ton rotator. Think crane truck that used to flip 18-wheelers back on their wheels. I also dispatched 4 nights a week, but that doesn't matter much here. In May of 2018, the owner of the company had told us we would be receiving a new rollback and a new second wrecker, as the one I had was our only one, and I had recently finished training a driver for it. Wreckers are special equipment for accident recovery and other specialty situations. When the trucks arrived, I noticed they were early 2000s, and neither was long enough for the 28-foot aluminum bed we'd recently removed from the 1985 International we'd retired months earlier. I advised that we should sell the aluminum rollback bed, worth about $15K, and buy a wrecker body, and I would train another 2 drivers to make sure we had the people in rotation to man them. Owner decided that they would take one of the new F550s we had received and weld steel beams onto the rear, then mount the bed to it. I immediately told them this would not only be unsafe, but illegal. Well, they went ahead and did this. When the truck was done and sent to me for initial inspection before going to the state inspection site that August for its yearly licensing, I immediately wrote the truck as inoperable and cited over 50 issues from frame damage, the welded bits, to lights being out. I thought this was the end of it. However, I wouldn't be typing this if that was the case. 2 weeks later, my wrecker threw a rod blowing the engine, expected to be down 30 to 45 days. Okay, whatever. We have 7 other light-duty trucks. The owner tells me to grab the truck I'd taken out of service 2 weeks prior as it was up for its inspection in the morning, when I reminded him that I had deemed it inoperable and cited numerous violations. he said, and I remember this like it happened yesterday. If I have to find another butt for that seat, you'll be collecting unemployment. So I went ahead and drove this rickety Frankenstein of a truck to my home, roughly 6 miles away. The next morning at 8 a.m., I was in line at the scale house awaiting my turn. Once I pulled around back, I was immediately approached by the sergeant and told I was moved to the front of the queue. This isn't good, but it's not my problem, I suppose. By the end of the inspection, the company was fined over $60,000 for the issues I had written up weeks earlier, and the sergeant told me we had to tow it out. It could not be driven anywhere. I called the owner and told him this. I was fired on the spot through what can only be described as the way you would scream at someone who slapped your mother while kicking your dog. Okay, I have copies of my reports. The truck is unsafe. I'll collect unemployment and look for another job. Nope. The owner filed a lawsuit against me, attempting to state that the truck was out of service and I had taken it to the scales to intentionally harm the business. Months later, I've countersued for defamation, wrongful termination, and back salary. After roughly 15 minutes, a judge awarded me $800,000. This is still not the end, however. Months later, I got a call from that guy I'd trained to drive the wrecker. He informed me he had heard the owner speaking of selling the business. This business had made $1.3 million profit in 2017. I bought the business 7 months later after I was fired for $900,000 with a contract that after an additional inspection, anything damaged would be fixed at the seller's expense. Upon inspection of 7 rollbacks, 2 wreckers, 1 rotator, 2 CDL-A wreckers, 2 CDL-B wreckers, the repairs came to just over $330,000. Having already accepted payment and signed the contract, the owner tried to back out, but ultimately folded under legal pressure. I bought the tow company only, by the way. Since buying the business, I've opened 2 additional offices and quadrupled the size of my fleet. We're currently looking for our first location in the neighboring state. Oh, and no one's referred to as an butt in the seat. Story serves as a powerful reminder of the importance of standing firm in the face of adversity, even when it means challenging those in authority. It also underscores the potential for unexpected opportunities to arise from adversity, turning what could have been a setback into a remarkable success story. In the end, it's a testament to the OP's unwavering dedication to safety, professionalism, and ethical conduct. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.